Hey, what's up, beard lovers and our crypto sisters and brothers? Welcome back to another episode of Beards and Bitcoins. We're a crypto podcast for the man's man with your hosts, BitBoy and J Chains. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you're subscribed on iTunes, Spotify, or SoundCloud, and on YouTube for the video versions. If you like what you hear, please show us some love and let us know in the comments. We do take requests for interviews, so email us at info@beardsandbitcoins.com. In today's episode, we're going to chat with Rowan Stone. He's the Business Development Director with Horizen. And in case you didn't know, Horizen is a blockchain platform with leading-edge privacy technology, and they provide everyone with the privacy and complete control of their digital footprint. They have a sustainable funding model with protocol-level solutions. We really enjoyed chatting with Rowan, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. But before we hop in, why don't we hear a quick word from the show sponsor, Monarch Wallet.
Monarch is building the future for those interested in one wallet that consolidates the best services and functionality into one simple and easy-to-use app. Monarch will empower users to control all aspects of their financial kingdom from the palm of their hand. You may have heard the phrase, not your keys, not your crypto. With Monarch, you own your keys and seed, meaning you own your crypto. With Monarch, you can store, receive, send, swap, buy, sell, and earn interest on your crypto, track your portfolio, the news, the market cap, and more today. We're constantly adding new services and updates too. Learn more today by visiting monarchtoken.io or download the wallet for free today from Apple or Google. All right, guys, here we are, episode 40. Some people may say the podcast is over the hill. I am your co-host, BitBoy. This is your other co-host, J Chains. What is going on?
What is up, my brother? Happy, at the time of recording, happy hump day. It's Wednesday.
Hump day. It's Wednesday when we're recording. That's it. We know you guys are super interested on what day we recorded on, so we make sure to tell you Wednesday, hump day. So even though you're at the end of the week, just know right now we're really struggling.
Oof. Man, but come the time you're listening to this, we're all getting ready for those weekend vibes, baby.
That's right. We just got done with Fake Monday, which was yesterday, which was Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day. So, yeah, we got some really exciting stuff to tell you about on the podcast today. But before we do, what did you do for Memorial Day, J Chains? Here on Beards and Bitcoins, we're big on freedom. We're big on America. So it was great to celebrate Memorial Day. What were you doing?
Well, we were celebrating the sacrifice and or the decision of the men and women of the United States to join the military and to make freedom free for us. I was enjoying a hot and sunny day here in Austin. We were down at what is called the Barton Springs Overflow. It's where everybody shows up. You bring the dogs, you bring a cooler, you bring some snacks.
The University of Texas cheerleaders also are probably there.
There are. I am a married. I am a married man, but there's some
also happily married. Also happily.
Yeah. But there are some beautiful women that show up there. It's a fun place to just go chill out and kind of cool down when the temperatures are hot, the water is cold, and typically the company's fantastic. So we didn't bring our paddle boards down. We recently got the paddle boards, but we didn't do that there because it was a little too crowded for Memorial Day. But man, we had a good time. What about you? What'd you do?
Yeah, so I believe you ended your day the same way I celebrated my Memorial Day. So I really I'm big on freedom. I love freedom, and we're actually going to have an interview today with the biz dev lead from Horizen, which is a privacy coin, which also is big on freedom. So, privacy and freedom are definitely linked together. So, I chose to spend my day freely having Mexican food to celebrate America because it's America and we can do that.
We can do that. Yeah, I had some El Pastor tacos myself, man. It was so good.
We had nachos. Whose are they? Nachos. We had nachos. Everyone in my family, we had nachos on Memorial Day to celebrate that it's our freedom and it's nachos.
And why did you do that? Because you could.
Because I can. Because it's American. And mostly, very important, the wife loves Mexican food, and she had a wedding the day before, and she had been on this really crazy diet, trying to make sure she was ready for being in this wedding and stuff. She didn't marry somebody else. She was just in the wedding. And, so she really wanted these nachos. And so we went and had nachos. She was gone the whole weekend. I was babysitting my own kids. People say it's not babysitting. When you got 3 kids, 7 and under, it definitely feels a lot like babysitting sometimes. But I was doing that all weekend long. So it was definitely pretty fun. Kind of.
That's fun. It's I'm sure that it poses some challenges, but I'm sure all in all, it's a good time when you get to spend some quality time with the kiddos.
Oh, I love my kids for sure. So
What do you,
yeah,
would
I
you like?
definitely
Would
don't
you like? What kind of stuff do you make them for dinner?
DoorDash. DoorDash, order some pizza. I actually did make hot dogs one day. Cereal served a lot of, meals there, but the wife had left me some hot dogs, and I actually physically cooked hot dogs, well, in the microwave. But still, that's huge for me. So I don't do a lot of cooking. Yeah, you actually have a chef background. I have none of that. So
This is true.
my specialty, ground beef in a bowl. That's my number one go-to meal. Yeah, ground beef.
We talked about that when you were here in Austin.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's like your go-to.
Go-to. You got to get that ground beef in that bowl. Man, now that you just said Austin, I just thought of barbecue, and I have to go get some barbecue now. So, well, guys, we want to introduce to you guys a new direction for our show. So this is episode 40. We're over the hill, but we got a new slogan. We want to tell you about the new slogan and what that means for the show going forward. So the new show slogan is Beards and Bitcoins, a crypto podcast for the man's man.
Ooh,
so
sounds so good.
Sounds so good, doesn't it? Because you guys know we don't get super technical on the show, and we're talking about beards. We actually tell them about a special guest we got next week coming on the podcast.
Oh, this is super exciting. So next week, when you guys are listening to us, we're going to be speaking with Aaron Johnson. Aaron Johnson, I believe, runs the Holy City Beard and Mustache Society. And if I'm going to look back here, he was the 2017 World Beard Champion in the goatee category. Goatee.
Ooh, I used to rock that goat.
I can't wait. That goat was the goat.
Yeah, so basically what we're doing on the podcast now is, we talk crypto every week. We're always going to bring up the big stories, but we want to start having guests that are, more focused on things that guys like. Now we know we have some women audience members. Lynn, I'm looking at you. I know that you're definitely a proud female member of the Bit Squad and the Beards and Bitcoins family. And we definitely have, some ladies that listen to the show, but Jay Chains and I, we're just regular guys. We like stuff that guys like. We like sports, we like beards, we like motorcycles, we like barbecue. We like stuff that dudes like. And so that is some stuff we're going to be, having some guests on the podcast to talk about stuff like that in the future. Definitely still mainly crypto focused, but you guys know we don't get super, super, super into the technical side of things. This is not a techie podcast by any stretch of the imagination. If you're a regular dude, then you're going to like this podcast. So
you might even love it. You might
love it. So we're going to try to get my beard in shape. That's the long-term project of the show, is getting my beard not so scraggly and to really look good. So definitely hoping that next week Aaron is going to be able to give me some tips on how to get this thing going. But so that's the new direction of the show. That's where we are headed with Beards and Bitcoins. It only took us 40 episodes to figure out what we want to do, but still going to be getting the same kind of content. It's not going to be drastically different or anything like that. We're just going to talk a little more barbecue, a little more beards, a little more motorcycles.
And it's better late than never. And hey, if you've got something going on in your world that you want to hear us talk about, if it's like dude related or just straight up awesome, email us, info@beardsandbitcoins.com. Drop us a note, say, hey dudes, chat about this, and we got your back.
Yeah, and I think we're also going to be doing a newsletter here soon or something like that. We don't know what we're going to be doing, but you guys will be looking in the future. We're going to tell you guys where you can drop your email address so we can give you some extra content. So to make you extra content, we'll drop you some extra content. So yeah, but let's talk about what happened this week, because everybody remembers where they were when JFK was shot. Now I wasn't there. I was not born yet. Okay, everybody remembers, and I'm sure you remember exactly where you were when 9/11 happened, right?
I was in my school cafeteria getting like a grilled cheese sandwich or something.
I was moving a refrigerator, and I was going to night school at the time. But yeah, I remember the whole details of everywhere I was at. Where were you at when we had the big green Bitcoin candle this week? That's where I want to know. That's the next question. We went over 8,000. Where were you this week? We're going to talk about what Bitcoin did this week, not the podcast with Peter McCormick, but our actual what Bitcoin literally did on the charts this week. So I'm going to pull up the chart for you guys that are watching.
Pull that baby up.
Yeah, pull that baby up for you guys that are watching on the YouTubes, which we appreciate. If you're not subscribed to Beards and Bitcoins, make sure that you do that. So, where were you this week, Jay, when the candle went up?
So the candle went up Uh, Man, I feel like this maybe wasn't as significant as I think now that I'm trying to remember, but I probably was at home. What day was it? Was it, was it
You
Monday?
blew you blew this so big.
I blew the segment.
You blew
You're
the entire segment. You
I'm
blew
just
the
kidding.
entire thing.
I was at home. I was at home. I'm just
I'm just kidding. I was at home. I promise. I promise.
I promise. I'm just trying to mess with you. We're still like with my job that I have during the times that I can't be focused on crypto. We're still kind of in the busy season. So this was the week that Division I baseball was selected, and those guys traveled and hit the road. So I was definitely at home. I was definitely half on my computer, half on my phone, and I had my tablet. I was that idiot that was scrolling Blockfolio, the one that they made a GIF of last time. I was, you know. I know that I put a post out on Twitter that said, when are we going to hit 10K? I think the overwhelming majority of the people who voted on that said Friday or beyond this week. So I was definitely at home, definitely well plugged into my Binance account, and tried to make some trades. Unfortunately, my patience doesn't work well, so I I just did that thing. What about you? Where were you at?
I was at home babysitting. I've already told you guys where I was. I was at home babysitting because that's literally the only place I was for like 4 days straight. So I have a Dodge Challenger. A lot of you guys know that. It's a Hemi, right? That's what we can talk about. We can talk about the car. The car's freaking sweet, It's the upgraded version, the V8, you know what I'm saying? So it's not exactly the most kid friendly. We can squeeze the 3 kids in the back seat because my oldest kid isn't old enough to sit in the front seat. Yeah, it doesn't work out that great to have the kids in the car. So we don't really go anywhere when I have to watch the kids and stuff like that. So yeah,
And you wouldn't want to drive the minivan around, I don't think, right?
no, of course not. Well, we don't have a minivan anymore. We actually got rid of the minivan. We now have a Kia Sportage. Yeah, so we got a Kia Sportage, and the Kia Sportage is pretty nice. I looked up grades of SUVs, and it's supposed to be really nice. So we got it, and it's nice. We like it. The kids can actually fit in the backseat of it, and we can actually have an SUV and not have to ride in a minivan. So it's actually spectacular. So, but anyways, that's
living the dad dream right there.
Living the dad dream. You know what? I'm really lucky to have a wife that allows me to have a sports car that really all my kids can't fit in. Most wives would tell their husbands you can't do that, but big shout out to Mama Wild Things. She is awesome, and she pretty much lets me do whatever I want. So, and she understands my need to, have a fast car. So big shout out to her for that.
Big shout out.
So I believe it was, around lunchtime, a little bit after lunchtime on Sunday that this hit. So I was actually taking a nap. So I went to sleep, and I woke up after I had like an hour or two nap. Oh, crap. Maybe the wife's not supposed to know I was napping while I was watching the kids. But anyways, I woke up, and here is this giant green candle. Everybody's talking about it on Twitter. And, the funny thing is, if you look at the chart here, the price has remained relatively stable ever since we had that pump. So, it's been up a little bit higher. It got pretty close to 9,000, hasn't pierced through 9,000. A lot of people are saying, 10K is coming around the corner. And, I'm really excited about where things are at right now with the market. So, this week's episode, like I said, we're going to be talking about Horizen and, what Horizen is doing in terms of privacy and, what they're doing for enterprise and things like that. We're going to talk about some different things with transparency and transactions and why you may or may not need that. Definitely some interesting insights into that. Which we're going to drop here in just a second. Next week, we're going to talk beards. We'll talk more about the markets and things like that. But before we go to the interview with Horizen, I think Jay Chains wants to tell us just a little bit about Monarch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody knows the phrase, not your keys, not your crypto. And I'm sure that you've heard by now that with the Monarch wallet, you get to own the keys to your financial castle. They belong to you. So they're bringing you the best of all crypto services in one place, which is the Monarch wallet. All right. You can send, store, receive thousands of cryptos. Qualified people can even actually buy and sell crypto and earn interest on that crypto, about 7%. The decentralized Monarch wallet even has a built-in decentralized exchange, so you can quickly swap tokens right there in your wallet. And if that's not enough, you got portfolio trackers, market cap information, stuff like that. So if you're interested, make sure you're checking out the website, monarchtoken.io, and you can learn a lot more there. But fantastic product. We love those guys, and they're just crushing roadmaps. And I think there's an update, right?
Yeah, there's an update. Also, I did want to add, not only do you get the decentralized exchange, the wallet, all the other features, you also get a good-looking president with a beard, aka Robert Beatles.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you can't really beat.
he's an awesome dude.
Well, he's got a nice beard. I mean, that's really the most important thing, actually, is the beard, as we all know. So, yeah, so Monarch had a tweet this week, a little update. So, excellent news. Well, this is actually from LA Token. LA Token is an exchange, if you didn't know that. I think it is based in LA, spoiler alert. LA Token, which this is not a Spanish law token. It's LA Token, by the way. Partner signs agreement with U.S. broker deal Monarch Token to strengthen position on the STO market. So, here we go, a little update about this. So San Francisco, May 27th, Liquid Trade Ltd. signed the agreement with Monarch subsidiary broker-dealer. They purchased, awaiting certain approval from the SEC and FINRA. I don't know what FINRA is, but it's aimed at providing accredited U.S. investors the ability to buy and sell eligible digital assets. So that would, of course, be having to do with STOs, which are security tokens. If you don't know, that's basically a way for more accredited investors to safely invest money in projects that are actually backed by capital, and it's not the same as crowdfunding, which ICOs and IEOs are. So definitely some interesting stuff there from Monarch Token and LA Token. Always good to give an update on what Monarch is doing. So
really quick, what FINRA is, FINRA, it's a non-for-profit organization authorized by Congress to protect America's investors by making sure the broker-dealer industry operates fairly.
Sounded like a villain from He-Man.
Sure
does. So, well, awesome. Well, that's all we got here for the intro. Let's go ahead right now. We're going to get into Horizen, what it is, what they're trying to do. It's not a sponsored interview on this one here, but we'll let you guys get into that. So without further ado, here we go. Let's talk with Horizen.
Enjoy. All right, today we are joined with Rowan. He is the Business Development Director of Horizen, and that's with a Z-E-N, not an O-N. Rowan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thanks for having me here. Nice talking to you guys both. Yeah, things are good. I'm speaking from a very sunny Panama City, Panama. You might see me squinting a little bit because my laptop's facing the window, so I apologize for that. But no, doing good. How are you guys?
Good. Panama City, Panama sounds exciting. Sounds much more exciting than the Redneck Riviera, aka Panama City, Florida.
The redneck.
That's what we call it. I live in Atlanta. We call it the Redneck Riviera. So if I'm in Georgia and we're calling it Redneck, it's got to be really, really fun.
Yeah, but Panama, I've done some research with my family about going down there for a vacation, and that is just a beautiful area. So I mean, you guys, it's like a hidden treasure. I don't think too many people go down there quite yet, or you guys are really starting to build up the infrastructure down in Panama City. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, slowly but surely. There's a few team members down here at the moment for sure. It's nice to have everybody in a similar time zone. That's kind of one of the main reasons we've congregated here.
What time is that? CST?
So right now it's Central Time. So we're like an hour behind EST. Yep. But basically, most of the year, same time zone as New York, which is pretty important for us.
Oh, so they don't do time change there?
No, they don't honor that at all.
Interesting.
I wish we would do that here. Arizona. It's so obnoxious.
It is, but it's not. Like we get the advantages of both. Like when it's cold and it's in the winter and like you can't really be outside, then it's dark early. You're not outside anyways, but in the summer you get the later time, and I don't know, I think it kind of works out, but it is kind of annoying getting it. Like the first couple of weeks you're always like really struggling. So
my thing against it is that it was originally started because everyone was a farmer, and so you had to change the light so that you get some work done, right? But now that we're not all farmers, I think we could probably do away with it. But anyhow, that's not what we're here to talk about today.
Are you sure? Because I really am enjoying this time zone conversation. I don't know what's on the horizon for the rest of the interview, but I think this is a strong start.
Oh, boom! There you go. All right. Anyway, so Rowan, why don't you give us a little introduction about yourself, kind of what got you involved into crypto, and exactly what you do with Horizen.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I'm Rowan Stone. I wear two hats. I have a hat for the Horizen Foundation, which is kind of the organization responsible for the upkeep and development of the technology platform. And that's, as you say, Director of Business Development. So primarily trying to make Zen as useful as possible and trying to get it into the hands of as many different people as possible via lots of different exchange integrations and making it super simple to store securely via kind of hardware and software wallets, as well as community outreach and things like that. And then on the other side, I'm also VP of Business Development and Sales for a new commercial offshoot we just set up called Horizen Labs. And Horizen Labs are essentially a kind of software development company that's going to be building products and services on top of the Horizen sidechain platform. And how do I get into crypto? Well, originally I was in a very kind of traditional business background. I'm actually originally from Scotland, although, like I say, speaking from Panama. And up in Scotland, the main industry there, certainly in my area of Scotland, was oil and gas. So I kind of fell into the oil and gas industry, progressed quite quickly into some senior management positions, but ultimately hated what I was doing. I've always been a bit of a computer geek. I've always enjoyed building hardware and messing around with things, building and more likely breaking, to be completely honest. So yeah, a friend of mine, quite a number of years ago now, I guess like 13 or 14, something like that, had mentioned that he'd been mining some cryptocurrency and that I should check it out. I'd heard of Bitcoin in the past, but hadn't really done anything with it. So I decided to put a couple of graphics cards on Litecoin originally, and it was awesome fun. And then I kind of got the bug from there. I realized that I could build stuff, leave it running, and earn a very modest at the time passive income. And that was pretty exciting and fun. So I started doing that, and then I ended up spending too much money on graphics cards, and it slowly expanded to the point where it filled my spare room in the house. And my partner at the time got a little bit pissed off with it being super noisy, so I had to migrate to my garage. And then I maxed out the power supply available in my garage, and things just kind of escalated from there. And then eventually I realized, price appreciation happened over a couple of years, and I realized that what I'd built had become pretty profitable, and then it had scope to be something standalone. So I quit my job. I bailed from the oil and gas industry, and I kind of got a couple of small warehouses in Scotland, and I filled them with a bunch of mining equipment, both graphics cards and ASICs. And yeah, it was awesome. It was great fun. And that's kind of what brought me to Horizen. So when I was exploring different projects to support with GPU hash power, I stumbled over Horizen, basically as it was launching, reviewed it a little bit, liked what I saw, didn't actually move much hash power over to it, only a small amount. And then they had a bit of a disaster when they first launched. The lead developer at the time made a bit of a mess of some replay protection. Some people lost some funds, which was not a great start to the project, but the way that Rob and Rolf handled what was a pretty crappy situation was super admirable. They really just nailed it. The communication was concise and regular, and it kind of showed the level of professionalism behind the team. So at that point, when I saw that, I reached out. I tried to get involved in any way I could. I ended up helping out a few months down the line with some kind of minor community stuff, and obviously I pointed all my hash power over to Zen at that point. And ever since then, they basically kidnapped me. They grabbed some duct tape, put it around my mouth, and handcuffs, and I'm now in Panama, and been working full time ever since.
It's a good place to kidnap somebody too, honestly. It's like all the gambling websites, all the online gambling in America, they're all based out of Panama, right? It's a very, very good place to do crime. So really excited for that.
You're really selling this to your listeners. Great place to do crime.
Great place to do crime. If you're into crime, it's somewhere you might want to go. So, well, we got one question. This is the new question we're going to be asking every project that comes on for an interview, because our podcast is called Beards and Bitcoins, right? Like, we're into beards. We're a podcast for the man's man. Your average man out there. You said you're a computer geek. I'm not. Jay Chains is not. A lot of our listeners are kind of people that are just maybe either new to crypto, or that they don't come from necessarily a background of being super techie, but they're interested in maybe the politics of decentralization and things like that. So the question is, for the man's man, for just a regular guy, why should he care what Horizen is doing?
So the primary reason, it kind of comes back to original sort of the Zen currency. We provide optional privacy, which in our opinion is something that's critically important. So for me, privacy is kind of like a precursor to freedom. If you don't have the ability to select what is and isn't private information, then you're not really very free at all. Bitcoin is amazing. I think it's safe to say that everybody in the Horizen team holds or has held Bitcoin in the past. But one of the kind of fundamental flaws, at least in our opinion, is that everything in Bitcoin is transparent.
Yep.
You kind of have some level of pseudo-anonymity, but really, everything is transparent. So with Zen, we use a technology called ZK Snarks, which I'm not going to explain, but basically that allows us to have two types of transactions. So a transaction that's fully transparent, a la Bitcoin, or a transaction that's shielded. When I say a shielded transaction, I mean that I could send some Zen to either one of you guys, and if it came out from a transparent wallet on the Zen Explorer, you would see my wallet address, and then you would just simply see 0 as an output. You'd see that a transaction had happened, but you wouldn't see how much it was, and you wouldn't see where it went. And if it was shielded to shielded, then it would just be a timestamp of transaction happened at this time from no address to no address, and the amount is...
Feel free to do that. Feel free to send us some.
Sure. If you guys have got Zen wallets, I'm more than happy to send you some Zen. I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's a cool technology. One, because it opens the door to a lot of different, fields that you can get yourself into, especially with mass adoption, because you've got some people that think the whole anonymity and, private transactions is a little too scary for them. And that might be for nefarious acts. But then you have the people who say, even though I'm not doing something wrong, if I've got the option to shield my transaction, it's like you're picking up two different customers at the same time, with an option. I think that's a great technology to have, and great for mass adoption too.
I say all the time, what you're doing right now may not be illegal. However, we don't know what laws are going to change and what, retroactively in the future, the government may consider illegal. Like if you take like freedom of speech, for instance, there's things you could have said 40 or 50 years ago that were totally fine then, and now it's not okay at all. And now you even get held against you things you may have said in the past that were not deemed to be inappropriate, And so I think it's the same thing kind of with financial transactions. And, when it comes to Bitcoin, with it being traceable, I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means. For instance, there was a case, it was called Operation Good Sam, I think it was called, something like that. It was where there were two guys who were taking over the computer systems of different hospitals. I live in Atlanta, or very close to Atlanta, and they actually took over the Atlanta government, their computer system, and basically they were holding it ransom for Bitcoin. And so So what happened is that over time, the government was able to, if you imagine every transaction is kind of a spider web or like a fork, you have a transaction, it gets sent here, then that, wallet sends money here, and it's just a giant web. And if you can just figure out the owner of one of those addresses, because it's all transparent, you can then trace that back. And they were actually able to track down the two guys. They were Iranian nationals, and they doxed their names in public. The FBI did. They said, these are the two guys, these are their names. If you do transactions with these guys, we are coming after you. And so it was a very interesting thing that happened. It's just funny that my city was, kind of involved in it. But that's what happens when you have a cryptocurrency that is supposed to be anonymous. However, it's completely transparent. So it sounds like Horizen is doing something, like you said, with the shielded transactions to kind of keep that. Basically, you're not able to trace transaction to transaction.
Yeah, but it's important to mention that we are transparent by default, and we still believe that's the kind of correct way to be, because you don't need to shield everything you do. And for the majority of people, they don't mind that people can trace their transactions because there's nothing to hide. If you're purchasing something with some Zen or whatever the case may be, great. You can use standard transactions and it'll go through just fine. And then you've got that kind of backup ledger, just like you do in every other cryptocurrency, so that you can check and see the history. But when you need to have some privacy, when you want to purchase something that maybe you don't want people to know about, you have the ability to do it in a shielded fashion. I think that's really important in a kind of business standing point as well, because you simply can't do business without privacy. Like if we're competitors and I can see every transaction you make and I can see how much you're buying all your materials for.
Never even thought about that.
You can't even be remotely competitive. I'm going to just go and circle around and buy stuff or undercut and do whatever I need to do. So privacy is super important in everyday life, but it's also critically important in the business landscape. And in the business landscape, it's even more important that the private feature isn't always on. because in business, you need to have transparency. You need to do your taxes. You need to be able to prove that things have happened and definitively state that you've received payments. But similarly, you need to be able to hide what you need to hide to keep your own competitive edge.
That's a very, very, very interesting point that I honestly have never even considered. So I know that JChain's like, he kind of wants to hide some of his transaction he does for like, I don't know, his women's weekend wear or whatever he does, you know?
That's
right. That's my thing. Don't you worry about that.
But
is that what the beards are for? The beard's like a disguise to sort of throw everybody off the scent.
Exactly. That's exactly. For him. I mean, for me,
this is just don't let them fool you. This thing's a peel off, man.
Well, cool. Well, I wanted to move into, I definitely do want to explore more of the privacy and, you know, the future of privacy coins and government regulation, things like that here in a minute. But I did want to bring this up before we got, you know, really too deep in the weeds here. I want to know about the rebrand because you guys were Zencash before, and I want to know if I'm correct. Is the reason you guys rebranded because Zencash was too similar of a name to Zcash?
It's not the reason, but for sure that played a part in the kind of overall picture.
That was always my suspicion.
Yeah, I mean, for sure that was a part of it. The real kind of ultimate reason is that what we're trying to do is build a technology platform, a completely open, decentralized, censorship-resistant technology platform that anybody anywhere can build products and services on top of. That brings us a long way from the original kind of launch of just being a privacy-oriented cryptocurrency. There was always the aim to get to there, but as we got closer to having that kind of infrastructure and software development kit in place, we realized that having the word cash as part of the name was actually quite limiting. We don't want to be seen as purely a cryptocurrency. Zen, if you like, is almost the first app in the Horizen ecosystem. So we thought it was very important to rebrand and reposition and really expand the horizons of what we're all about, but also super important to keep our roots, which is why we kept Zen in the name. And the ticker obviously remained the same as well.
Yeah.
Zen, I mean, that's a pretty good word. I mean, it just played so well from, you know, the Zencash into the Horizen. And I like the rebrand. I like the, you know, the new logo that you guys have. I think that was a, you know, you did it as a fresh thing. Everybody likes something fresh too. And Zen, man, that's chill. It's like doing yoga.
Exactly. You got to stay Zen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
one thing that I certainly cannot do. I'm lucky to touch my toes when I bend my legs, you know, so. But yeah, that's very interesting. And you know, another thing I want to ask you, since you guys are kind of moving on, so this technology platform you guys are looking to do, is it more of like an enterprise chain, or is it more like where people will be able to build dApps on top of it? What does that kind of look like for you guys?
Okay, I'm going to have to take a little step back to explain this properly. But so we kind of see, I don't know how much detail and how much time we have here, but we see there being kind of
we have as much time as you want.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we kind of see three big problems across the industry. We see the inability for a lot of different platforms and currencies to scale as being a massive problem. The best example of that is Ethereum with CryptoKitties. They had some kind of very small level of traction within a tiny subset of our community, our crypto community, not the mass market. But even that tiny subset of people was enough to kind of slow down and almost grind the Ethereum network to a halt. And it happened because they're trying to cram everything that happens in that network through the main chain. So they've got one size pipe and they're cramming absolutely everything through it. So when things pick up in terms of transactions, obviously there's not enough capacity there. So scaling we see as being a really big issue. We're trying to tackle that in two ways. So we're trying to tackle it by moving our main chain to something with a higher transactional throughput. Now, the current research that we've been doing in the background with IOHK has been around moving from a standard blockchain to a directed acyclic graph, a DAG type architecture. And that's ultimately allows us to play tunes with the number of blocks we can solve, which means more capacity. The other way we're trying to scale is that we're trying to build products and services, but rather than building them on infrastructure on the main chain, we're using like a side chain architecture. So whereas Ethereum have all of the smart contracts and the applications that are built in the same mix as normal transactions, we're going to have kind of, think of it as like little extensions to the network, little bespoke areas where we can build products and services for a particular use case with defined sets of logic and criteria to fit that use. So sidechains is kind of our way of solving the scaling issue. The next big issue we see is governance. We don't want to get to a point where we're forking ourselves to death because we can't agree on simple things like
That's
the
what she
size
said.
of the block or whatever the case may be, on-chain scaling versus off-chain, or whatever other big argument you want to have that's going to cause lots of forks. So we've put a lot of effort into trying to really figure out a fair way of governing the Horizen ecosystem. Again, we've done a lot of research and development in partnership with IOHK, and ultimately we'll be moving to a kind of treasury DAO system. So a decentralized, autonomous organization where Zen holders are able to vote in a fair way and be incentivized to vote so that we can kind of reduce voter apathy. So that's our way of solving governance. And then really to circle around to the question that you'd actually asked me, the third problem that we see is really kind of utility / adoption. Like we're not going to get anywhere as an industry if we don't get a much bigger percentage of the world to start taking advantage of this new technology. So we see that as having kind of two sides. We see the first side as being everything's too complex. To your point earlier on, you mentioned that you're not a super techie guy. I'm sure you've struggled with different projects and products when you've fired up a new wallet for the first time and been just bamboozled with really poor user experience and just really basic fundamental stuff. So that's not good enough. We need to be getting to a point as an industry where we have Apple style, super easy UI, give it to anybody that can fire it up and immediately understand. So lowering the technical barrier to entry is kind of one half of the puzzle. Well, it's not even one half, it's like a quarter. The other quarter is people actually need some sort of utility. Like you need a reason to want to jump into this ecosystem. You can't just decide one day, I'm going to start using cryptocurrency because it's cool. I mean,
and you need, and this is the question that projects always get from the Bitcoin maximalists, you know, like, okay, but what's the use case for the token? Like, why do you need your own currency? And that's, you know, that's another question, you know, with projects that I think is really important to kind of figure out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Super, super important. If you don't have an answer to why you need your own currency, you probably shouldn't be in operation, plain and simply. So yeah, adoption for us is about lowering the technical barrier to entry and creating some utility. We want to create utility in two ways. We want to build products and services ourselves with kind of end users in mind. Things like our chat application that allows you to chat privately with each other. Things like a decentralized VPN to help you restore some of your online privacy and your surfing activities and location, things like that. But really, it's a large effort and small reward. Like we'd have to go out to very disparate areas and try and push these products to a huge variety of people to get any kind of adoption. What makes more sense is to provide a technology platform that large and brand new businesses can build on top of and really bring products and services to their existing customer bases, utilizing the technology stack that we're bringing to market. So we see that as kind of being the other half of the puzzle to really help with adoption. And that's why Horizen Labs has spun up as a kind of enterprise and startup focused business that's going to be collaborating with a variety of companies to build products and services on top of the Horizen ecosystem. And we think that's probably the best way to really ramp up and accelerate adoption, certainly in our ecosystem.
Very cool. Now you guys are going to be doing, you have a node network, is that correct? Yeah, absolutely. So we diverted a percentage of block rewards. We're to kind of go back to the start. We're a proof of work cryptocurrency. We realized early on in the development of the project that miners are obviously very, very important, but they're not the only group of people that provide value in an ecosystem. If we want to build products and services, we need something to build those products and services on top of. So a percentage of block rewards was diverted to people that are willing to operate nodes on behalf of Horizen. And that's actually brought us to a point now where we have the largest node network in the entire industry, which is pretty damn cool for an organization, as you can see on the screen, that's currently sitting at number 86 on CoinMarketCap. So
yeah. What was the peak on CoinMarketCap for you guys?
I think we got to about 60, right in the kind of midst of the FOMO bull run from 2017. And then most recently, I think we got up to about 70, 75. And now we're kind of, as you can see on the chart, going through a little bit of a can't speak, a little bit of a correction.
Yeah.
But yeah, still well within the top 100. Nice, slow organic growth, which is exactly what we're looking for.
That's the way to do it. You don't want to be one of those projects that just pumps and you get people excited, and then obviously things will change and people get disinterested though. So organic growth, slow and steady. I mean, that's what wins the race these days, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think I've told people on my channel that I believe that this that this next run that we're going to go on is going to be much different. I'm just kind of scrolling through the website as we're talking here. If you're watching on YouTube. In the past, what we saw in 2017 was we saw a lot of the smaller projects, go from a couple Satoshis to, way up, people making $500,000 almost overnight, things like that. But I think that, what we're going to see on this next run is we're going to see a lot of the top projects doing a lot better. And, it's a trickle down effect. So kind of what we had 2 out of the 3 things that have to occur in order to have what people call altcoin season. You got to have Bitcoin pump. You have to have people take profits out of Bitcoin. Then they put them back in about the top 10 projects. Those pump, which we saw those 2 things happen over the last couple of weeks. But then Bitcoin had a dump before the third thing happened, which is then people take profits out of their top 10 projects and they start trickling those down. And I think that probably the projects that are in the top 100 to 200 are going to do pretty well on this next run we're going to go on. Obviously, I'm not a financial expert, but I don't think we're going to see as many of the kind of insignificant projects, the ICOs that, have hardly any volume doing huge pumps and stuff like that. Because, the fact is that a lot of the reason why that happened in the last run was because Binance and Bittrex had to shut down their user base, or they had to shut down new registrations. And all of a sudden, all these smaller exchanges got into the game and they had all kinds of crazy coins on there that you had never heard of. So, I think that Horizen is definitely positioned in a really good spot where you guys have had that good organic growth over the bear market, obviously, of course, bottoming out after, 2017, but having good organic growth and kind of getting a good pump, having to correct. I think you guys are in probably a pretty good position, especially with the rebrand, I think rebrands they're almost always good for projects outside the top 10, I think.
To be honest, I kind of want us to continue flying under the carpet for a little bit longer. I mean, we're definitely a build first, shout later type organization. And we've made a lot of promises. Really 2019 for us is the year of delivery. So we need to really roll up our sleeves, which we have done, and really, really start working super hard on bringing all of the different components that we've promised the community to the market. And ideally, I'd like the price to stay kind of reasonably stable until we've got everything out and there.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's never bad for the price to appreciate. Don't get me wrong. It's
Right.
fantastic. Our budget is directly correlated to the value of Zen. So as Zen goes up, it means we can pile more money into engineering and we can fast forward our efforts. So it's
but what about yacht parties, strippers, and coke?
yacht party strippers.
Is that not in your budget?
I know I'm in Panama. I knew you were going to bring that up. No, we're managing to resist the yacht parties, strippers, and coke. If we
when you guys get there, I'm only in Austin. That's a short flight away. You just call me. I'll come down and party.
Yeah,
Awesome.
my wife may not approve that. But, in all seriousness, like, I like that attitude. That's a great attitude to have. I think if you're investing in a project for long term, like, that's the attitude you want your team to have. Like, yeah, if the price goes up, that's great, yada, 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 but we're building. However, like, that's not reality. That's not, in my opinion, what's going to happen, because we're still at least 1, maybe 2 runs away before the product itself is connected with the price. Right now, it's still purely speculation. Like a project I'm real big on, I run a node on, is IOST. And like, if you compare IOST, their decentralized platform, to what Tron and Ethereum and EOS are doing, like doing more transactions, it's a more decentralized. There's all kinds of great things that actually make it, in my opinion, better than those projects. Like, it's very similar to Tron without any of the negative public feedback that you get from Tron. So it should be doing better than it is. However, that's just not how the game is right now. I look at a project like Cardano, and I can make an argument that Cardano is going to do extremely well in the next run because it has no product and it has nothing for anybody to nitpick. So it's almost like the ones that already have the working products out, they have more room for criticism than the ones that don't yet, because they can still talk about pie in the sky dreams about what they want to do in the future. I know you said you guys are are going to work with IOHK or whatever. But, that's my take on it. I think the speculation is still completely driving this market right now. I don't know if when the products connects with the price, if we'll have some kind of big crash or, if it'll just be more organic growth after that. But, like I said, I like the attitude. I think it's a great attitude. I think that's what you want your team to be working on. You want their heads down working on the project itself. But yeah, you guys will pump really huge when we go on a run. So
you bring up a good point. I mean, I think we're at the point now where, back in the last bull run where, all you had to do was put out an article and your price would blast up. Now you could put out your product, you could have a huge partnership, you could announce all these things. And I've seen projects even go down after that point where, it's not the news, it's not the article, it's not the product right now. Like you said,
it's still speculation. We're still in a really immature marketplace. And that's kind of the bottom line. I mean, we've got some of the bigger players, some of the more traditional heads that have come into the space with their capital, and they understand a little bit more deeply how to really define value. But I mean, how do you define value to a cryptocurrency? It's still a big question. You can look at products and services, you can look at user base, you can look at adoption, there's lots of things you can do, but to actually define what its true value should be is extremely difficult. But yeah, I mean, I think certainly seeing things like big partnerships being announced and products being taken out and released and seeing price goes down is a little bit concerning, but I think because we are still in the speculation phase, you'll probably find that these pieces of news have been factored into price a month in advance.
Yeah, for sure.
Because once they actually get
the whales are the ones moving the market, and they're the ones that have the inside info.
For sure, that could be part of it.
Yeah, but I think it reminds me of like Shark Tank. You ever watch the show Shark Tank?
I haven't actually, no.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, Shark Tank, it's got, Mark Cuban is on there and Kevin
O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary and
AKA Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful.
Wait, this is the show with like a panel of investors and people kind of pitch.
Exactly.
Okay. There's like a UK version of that called Dragon's Den. So I'm familiar with the concept. I've just not seen the US version.
Dragons versus Sharks. That might be a better show. But anyway, so what, it would have been a better finale than Game of Thrones finale. But anyways, so, it reminds me of that show where like, you get somebody that walks in and they're like, okay, they go over their whole spiel of like, this is what we are, this is what we're doing. And they're like, okay, what's the valuation of their company? And they're like, valuation of the company is $2.5 million. And they're like, okay, but how many sales do you have? And, they're like, well, we sold like 50 things online, but we haven't really focused on it. And they're like, where in the world did you get that valuation from? Like, that's kind of what it feels like, with crypto sometimes. But I think that the reason why we're all in this is, there's different reasons people are in it purely for the financial part of it. That plays into why everyone is in it on some level, I believe. You got some people that are in it because they are super into tech. They're developers. They want to develop stuff and get their name out. You got other people that are in it for, like I said, the political reasons in terms of just, like freedom of speech or censorship-resistant platforms and things like that. But, it's still all just speculating on what it's going to be one day. And so all of us that are in it, we're kind of betting on the long-term game of we think that these projects, like while it's just highly speculative, we think one day they will be worth more than they're worth right now because of the huge influx of blockchain technology that's going to go into our lives. Like we all believe, I think none of us would be in this if we don't believe that blockchain is going to be close to as revolutionary for the world as the internet has been, And so I think that's why you see these giant, market cap numbers for projects that don't exist yet, because people are seeing the future. We're seeing where things are going. So,
and we don't yet know what the killer app actually is. I mean, we know that blockchain
not CryptoKitties.
Well, probably not CryptoKitties. No, probably not. But we know that blockchain's got properties that make it super attractive. We know that it's a great way to decentralize trust. We know that it's a great way to create something that's digitally immutable. But we haven't, as an industry, really figured out exactly where to deploy that. We haven't figured out which application or product or service that these qualities enhance to a point where it makes perfect sense for a mass market audience. And that's probably a good time to mention what Horizen Labs is trying to do. So the whole idea of the sidechain platform that Horizen and Horizen Labs are creating is that we're trying to bridge the gap between public and private blockchain. And I say that because like I just said, public blockchain is fantastic if you want to decentralize trust. It's awesome if you want to have something that's truly immutable. However, if you're an enterprise business or a developer or a startup or whoever, and you want to build a product or service, it's very rigid. You can't define the rules. The rules are there already. You don't have any control of the logic, and you can't decide who comes and goes. So yes, it's awesome that it's open, decentralized, permissionless, yada, yada, yada. Fantastic. But if you want to build something bespoke, you kind of need a bit more control. And on the flip side, private blockchain is fantastic if you want control. It's fantastic if you want to be able to build your own logic and define everything, decide who comes and goes. But it's centralized, doesn't actually decentralize trust at all, really. And arguably it isn't really immutable because you've got only the servers or the nodes that are hosted within your own network. So Horizen sidechains are trying to kind of bring these two areas together. Horizen public blockchain with sidechains that are basically bespoke areas plugged into them. So that's kind of the aim. We're trying to sort of meld the two worlds and provide a solution that can give businesses the best of both.
Very good. And this is like have you just celebrated or you're about to celebrate your second anniversary?
We just celebrated our second anniversary during Consensus in New York City, maybe like just under 2 weeks ago. So super recent.
Very good. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much.
Anniversary and birthday, it probably both fit here. So, well,
birth-anniversary or
birth anniversary? Oh, you're going in dark territory, Chains. Let's stop right now before we get too crazy. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I think this has been, a very good talk. Very interesting, bringing up a lot of different points. You definitely opened something up in my mind when you were talking about the transparency for business transactions and how basically, if you do everything transparent, like anybody can just copy what you're doing. So that's a new thing I'm going to think on for a bit. So definitely thank you for joining us. And the website is, what is the exact address, the URL of the website?
So we have horizen.global, which is the foundation. And then we have horizenlabs.io, which is the software development company.
Right. And then you said that's the for-profit, Horizen Labs.
Is indeed, yes.
And that's okay. We like people making money. That's a good thing. In cryptocurrency, it seems to be a dirty word, profit. But nobody does anything for free, guys.
No one's working for free.
Yeah, you guys aren't investing in these projects because you think you're going to lose money. So, definitely thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you guys later.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Rowan. Talk to you soon, man.
Take care, guys.
Thank you for listening to Beards and Bitcoins. Big shout out to our show sponsor, Monarch. You can find them at monarchtoken.io and on Twitter at monarchtoken. You can find Beards and Bitcoins on Twitter at Beards Bitcoins is the handle. We would love to talk with you on Twitter or any of our other platforms. Thank you guys so much for listening and all the support.